Good evening. Can you hear me well? Friends, we have come to the end. And my piece of wisdom, though, is that it is the beginning, because we have become friends. And friendship is that expansion of the moment. And so I'm very humbled to find this moment here, which I think of as a sort of triumph of love over death. And I want to thank everybody for including me in that. I'm very, very grateful. But let us suffer a little bit more, because because I'm about to read. I want to begin. I'm changing plans because of Edwidge. The greatness there is that I am shaken, and I want to take a bit of courage by. I was reminded as she read that I wrote a poem which is a child's prayer to a mother on the brink of death. So I have not read it in a million years. Thanks, Edwidge. The Mother Portrait. Naomi, my mother, you are sick. I am afraid as if I were in darkness, and slit white eyes are mocking me. The Elah woman says you've been marked, that your enemy put a coolie duppy on you. So mornings when the basil rise in the nose, the duppy is outside. Naomi, why you? You never trouble people. You don't hang with rumhead district women on the plaza, cutting eyes, lapping skirts on people's business whole day. They call you things. I hear them. Lady of the night, ninny, bird. The dish towel names hang on fences to quail in the sun for all to see. What wrong you caused? What damage? Is it us, you're too precious, that you boast of? Our father who ran away to the streets of England? We who wear shoes out of the once in a blue moon parcel to school and eat out of crockery and must not romp with village picnic? Naomi, did I fertilize their envy and push their hands to Obia? To watch you turn fool, mad woman, running across yards, chased by a white hair, shrilled voice, coolie duppy? Naomi, I see you sick and hurting, and I can't help you. I am afraid to look in your eyes or touch you, my own mother. It kills to watch your mouth corner froth and dry with the sickness, the strong smell of healer's potion in your skin, oil in your creases, in your ears and neck, and your wrist tied to the bed, vomit on your bosom, blood in your torn hair, fury in your grunts and screams. Naomi, my mother, you are sick. But you're not dead, not yet. Though that horror is in your eyes, and I piss myself like a boy who's lost and hunger in the night swamp where morning will not light. Oh God, Naomi, I am too weak, and I am watching you dying while my sister sleeps on the floor, her dreams troubled by the open vials. Father, hear me now. Take me, leave my mother for the other child. Thank you. The difference. They talk oil in heavy jackets and plaid over their coffee. They talk Texas and the North Pole, but mostly oil and Obama. Voices dipping, vexed. And then they talk Egypt failing, Greek broken, and it takes cash for France, not charity. And I rather speak Russia than Ukraine, one says in rubles, than whatever the trouble, because there is sea and gold, a tunnel wherever right now, and anyhow, Belarus. Oh, I will show you something. Conspiring coins, this one, China, and they marvel. Their minds hatched crosses, a frontier zeroed, not by voyage or pipeline, nor the milk foam of God. No, not the gutsy weather they talk, frizzled, the abomination worsening, opulence to squalor, never the inverse. Thank you. I have to keep watch of time. I'm looking at you, Arlo, because I have 15 minutes, so okay. I'll read a poem that's to use Jamaica's word, appropriating the voice of Lee Scratch Perry. I hope that name is familiar here. For the rest of the audience, for God's sakes, please buy a CD or go on YouTube, type in Lee Scratch Perry, and be wowed. I'll just mention one name in conjunction, and this will help to put it into perspective. You're taking notes, good. Bob Marley, right? So an early producer of Marley's music. But one of the incredible things about Scratch is that there's no other Scratch. For various reasons, one of which is he built this studio in Kingston in the late 60s, 70s, that he called the Black Ark, in which tons of early reggae music was produced, and that was where dub music was invented. One could argue. But it was a very popular place, and quite suddenly he decided to burn it down, which I think of as a sort of creative destruction, which is the most difficult when it is to end the thing you've built, to destroy. The Ark by Scratch. The genie says, build a studio. I build a studio from ash. I make it out of peril and slum things. I alone when blood and bullet and all Christ fucking American dollar politicians start the pressure down to nothing. When the equator is confused and coke bubbles and tinfoil to cemented wreath. I built it, a Congo drum so hollowed through the future pyramids up long before CDs spin away rootsmen knocking down by the seaside like captives wheeling by the Kebab River. The genie says build a studio, but don't take any foul in it, just electric. So I make it, my echo chamber with shot rooms of rainbow King Arthur's sword keep in, and one for the Maccabees alone, for covenant is bond between man and worm. Next room is Stone Age. After that, Iron. And one I named Freeze, for too much ice downtown in the brains of all them crossing Duke Street, holy like Parsons. And in the circuit breaker, the red switch is for death, and the black switch is for death, and the master switch is black and red. So if US, Russia, China, Israel talk, missiles talk, I talk that switch I call Melchizedek. I build a closet for the waterfalls, one for the rivers, another for oceans, next for secrets. The genie says, build a studio. I built it without gopher wood. Now, consider the nest of bees in the cranium of the gong. Consider the nest of wasps in the heart of the bush doctor. Consider the nest of locusts in the gut of the black heart man. I put them there, and the others that vibrate at the feast of the passed over, when the collie weed is passed over the roast fish and cornbread. I upset her. I Django on the black wax, the super ape, E.T. I cleared the wave. Again, consider the burning bush in the ears of Kalungi, and the burning sword in the mouth of the fireman, and the burning pillar in the eyes of the Gargamel. I put them there to outlast Earth as I navigate on one of Saturn's rings. I miter solid shadow setting fire to snow in my ark. I credit not the genie, but the coral rock. I am stone. I am perfect. Myself is a vanishing conch shell speeding around a discotheque. At the embassy of angels, skeletons ramble to check out my creation dub. And sex is dub, stripped to the bone. And dub is the heart, breaking the torso, to spring olive-beaked, to be eaten up by sunlight. Thank you. This is a poem dedicated to a great Jamaican writer, Erna Bradber. Erna Bradber, in notes or yay? Yay! It can't be said. It would take me all evening to say anything about Bradber's work, other than it is fantastic. Jane and Louisa, yes, you know, so much mile. I think of her. I always think of Bradbury in light of Wilson Harris, that visionary range. It's pre-Columbian but contemporary. It is total American in the whole experience of us here. But grounded and local to her own space. In fact, this poem is called Black Space, which is the name of her home in Jamaica. Kai and I was at the UE, and Kai was, I don't know what he was doing, but Kai and I went to Black Space, Erna's house, and I had this weird dream in the night that I saw her levitating and coming towards me. She has this beautiful gray afro that like a blaze of sunlight, and I saw that. And so it was very odd at the breakfast table in the morning, looking at her. So, like, Erna, what did I do last night, really? You know, the odd thing is, each time is this being recorded? Every time I've seen her since, I'm always looking at her if she, you know what happened? I think she does, you know? So I love Erna. So this is a poem for her. And then one more. Black space. I can bring a halo into the night cave, quiet with music. Do not ask the music. To her shaded there in the moon, her fine spectacles steam their pawn rings. Her animal eyes fix on the lintel of the door as the wax owl glances back at me. I am her little cotton tree. The breeze combs white into a final note. Her diminuendo, poco a poco. Moon afro. Myself outpaces me in wonder of her. She goes off, and I seep under the black sprout of her house to rise a salmon bell on the hill, dissolving mild cloud fractals without grief or malice. Thank you. I'll end with a poem which is also in dedication, implicitly, to the name that has been running through this seminar and given it oxygen and life, that of Dark Walcott. And the one thing I would say is that I had a chance to visit the landscape of one of his final meditation in Trinidad, in Paramin, the final book, Morning Paramin. And it was something of a that whole thing of seeing with new eyes what was always offered, and it felt more magnificent for having been offered it through Walcott's poems, and then standing on the hill of Paramin, his presence was fully there. So this is called The Mariner's Progress. It's a few sonnets. With never a whisper on the main, so the snow falls, glaring through the fresh rift of acacia leaves at sunrise and seeping the dye of immortal on mild fleece, shrinking back eternity to flurries stalking summer cairns. Somewhere, harpies and cruisers blare beneath prairie clouds. An iceberg flashes, turns a smoke of ice on the air. The cold repels, draws out, redoubling whites. In the green heat, you hallucinate, where the sea runs light on light, creeping the heights, your new turret on the house in clouds scorns nothing. Poetry's sub rosa, ever uncompromised, as now infrared crows eclipse the lawns. And I once, brute and stammering to you, toppled in a blue beach chair, pushed to the meridian hush island coo talk. But your eyes search out where children leap hotels' sand dams and worry the guard and his dog. The triumph of surrender, of love flame from history, like that pyro tailor's scissors' bright roar, reducing the treasury of the poor. You sputter into a blinding cough and recover with Emerson? Yes, that culprit all along, new to me, so was Boston Common when we waited in the trash fire of autumn and could feel salt driving off the Atlantic. Where the mescal ferns begin, and after them, dross wet soil rises from bank to ridge, Sunset slow inflation. You point, they change in one stroke to mountain blue foliage. On utility poles hang night's recessive fable. Again, you stab the windscreen. Out there, abundant still lifes, the stark, inflammable river you will cross over, recoil at the pier. What value is the ride? In digression, art, a mere fraught in the sea the following day. It seems gathered up by spokes of clouds caught in an agonizing conversion. You jolt towards it, but out laughed a schoolboy, way too happy. Oh, a pillow, sun-blasted, all colors. Clinking cavalcade, inching up the Sunday road, lined with crowds. None anonymous, moving as lines do, growing in depth of play, unstable and absolute where they must. Each thing has a crack indeed. Adjust the mirror beyond the surf's exhortation and see arch dolphins at equinox blur with drizzle Port Antonio into Fiji. Half-mile of bamboo cathedral tunnels and airy pass there once. Its shadows hacked away, and in that vacancy light depreciates now. Geography is not fate, but fatal. Gone is the corridor to hold your glory. The sun and sea in your eyes still bow. Pilgrim of occasional fireflies, brooding inside the Alliance Francois pyramid, where the wild honey expires and the doggerel air embalms all you have lived, relived with lament and praise. Pain's license. Silence, then the reciprocity of silence. Its immense language sends an ibis to absolve and to mark your sins. Late in life astonishment, like bitcoins on the tongue. What you say is hidden in noon gossip. Yes, having a gift is to be called. Since it is given, let it go. The mind irons bronze in water, a voice radiating, we please our elders when we sit enthralled. Ascend and bless the devil's altitude, shale drifting from the sky's blue furnace, slant sparks of green off the veil Santa Cruz. Below, being so blessed, this is penance, of a kind, my own road to Emmaus. Wafers upon wafers of oleanders suture, those eyes scattered and staring through dust. Around each bend arrives the future, which departs exactly close to Lalibela. One fleeting night, the rock church is wept by my ears, refracted stony hills scars, their ragged music pitching diaspora against despair. Such music you have left withstands permanently the striation of scars. To evening air, I add blown cane, blown cane, blown cane, and stepped into the Quattrocento outside the library by the pier. All is changed. Blown, I am a broad Antillean echo, lost in the marrow wings of a pelican or an albatross, cloud remnant, tasseled low flyer below the radar of the wind. Trade winds, travailed, not traveled, shit-blooded, a million blades choir and collapse and repeat their absolute surgeon pledge I picked up by potholes which I jumped to reach home. Blown canes, singed from the African Holocaust. Dark breaks in me, carrying your line, lucid, sandglass, seeding uphill, mine to keep, and give. The kite season is early. Little insurgents everywhere of souls lifting, subsiding, half transparent in night's green silence. By morning, they are falling over the cement fence. Your childhood alamanders annunciate your last withdrawal into heat so fierce it breaks its own laws, and the man into tears along Laperouse seawall. His umbrella kite shielding the sun from the murals. Meantime, I hesitate on a maroon canal in Delft, crossing waters filial piety. Erin rings whisper, small honors in the storm, and watch moss lilies drift into untouchable maze, fastened to each other. Your ancestors' spires are of ambergris. They magnify in the water my spectral self. Thank you.